A couple years ago, I had someone get a hold of me asking about starting their own business. They said they were kind of tired of being an employee and they felt they were pretty good at what they were doing and they wanted to start their own business and kind of see how things went. And they asked me what the kind of what the process would be. And it was interesting because they ended up starting their own business and they reached out to me a couple days ago to let me know how it was going. And I thought it would be a good time to kind of break down the process that I helped them understand at the time. I kind of figure, like, for the average person that's never started a business but is really thinking about it, this is something that could be pretty helpful. In the decision making process, there's some things you have to think about, right? If the business that you want to start, is it something that you at least have a better understanding of than the average person? Doesn't mean you're an expert, a professional, like you don't necessarily need to know everything about the business, but are you at least better at it than the average person? Is it something that the average person is going to come to you and ask you for your help because you are better at it? When you start a business, you should look back in a year or two and be embarrassed about how things went at the beginning. So many people, they take way too long to make a decision about starting a business, and they just never do it. Because they feel like the situation has to be perfect. They have to be an expert. Like things just have to, like the stars have to align. And that's not the case with starting a business. You're not going to ever be able to start a business and not make mistakes if you haven't done it before and done it a lot before. And I would say that even at that point, you're still going to make mistakes, even if you have a lot of experience, because it's a whole different situation with every business that you start. The next thing you have to think about is there a need for it? You might be good at something, but at the same time, there's no need for it. So there's no one to buy your products or services. So that's something that you really have to take a hard look at and see. In our area, there's, everybody here, it seems like, builds fencing. From what I can tell, there's not really a need for it. That doesn't mean that you can't start a fencing business and become successful at it, by marketing correctly, by being kind of the outlier in the industry, doing things differently than a lot of people have done. But it's going to make things a lot more difficult. So you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons. The other thing is it's something that you're passionate about. Starting a business it consumes your life. Or at least it should. If it's not consuming your life, at least at the beginning, it's probably going to be difficult to be successful at it. It takes a lot to start a business. It takes a huge push at the beginning. And then even once you get to the point where you feel like the business is successful, you're going to continue to need to push to keep it that way. Once you're profitable, you can start hiring people to replace the things that you don't want to do in the business. So there are some advantages once you become profitable, but it has to be something you're passionate about or you're not going to stay with it. When things get tough, you're going to want to bail. Next thing is cash flow is really important with a business, right? But it's very hard to cash flow when you're just starting. So do you have savings? Do you have supplemental income? Do you have another job that you can work part-time and you can start your business around that? I mean, ideally in a perfect situation, you would go all in at the beginning, but things are rarely perfect. If you decide you're going to save money until you get the savings to start your own business, again, you'll be back in that boat where you're waiting for things to become perfect. So you got to kind of keep in the back of your mind, like, where is my income going to come from? Because it's not realistic to think you're going to be profitable from day one. There's some things that you can do depending on the business to increase the likelihood. But if you're counting on living on that income from day one, it's going to be tough because right at the beginning, you're going to have a big push of advertising, marketing, getting your licenses, whatever's required for your state, city, county. There's going to be a lot of expenses, getting a tax, getting an accountant for your business, filing LLC paperwork if you decide to go that route. There's a lot of expenses at the beginning. So you almost have to have a supplemental income while you're getting this all in place and while you're finding work. Another big consideration, and this is a little controversial, but can you do it without a business partner? In my experience, Pretty much everybody that I know over the years that has started a business with a business partner has had a falling out within a very short amount of time, within 1 to 2 years. Majority of the time, the business folds at that point because they're relying on each other to pick up where the other person is not able to carry weight on, and that becomes a point of friction. And then now there's a split with the partnership, and the business usually folds. I mean, I can say that I will probably never in my life start a business with a business partner that's not my wife. And even that can be, you've got to have the right relationship in order to do something business related with your wife, husband, partner, spouse, whatever. So put a lot of consideration into that. I would err on the side of not ever having a business partner. I think it's a recipe for disaster. There's some exceptions. I have yet to see very many of them that work. The next question that you got to ask yourself is, can you start the business legally from day one? And what I mean by that is, can you have all the licenses in place? Can you have the general liability insurance? Can you have errors and omissions insurance if you need it? Can you have everything in place to start legally from day one? I'm not encouraging you to do it any other way, but that's some research that you should do to figure out what is required to do it correct from day one. It's a lot harder to create sales when you're not a legal business, especially if you're working like as a contractor or landscaper or anything where people commonly question like the validity of the business, whether or not the business is legal and legit. Like, here's a great example. There are duct cleaning companies that are legit, that are legal businesses that actually go out and clean dryer vents and clean air ducts. But everybody knows that if you see a duct cleaning company on social media, it's a scam. So in order to break through all that noise as a legitimate business, you've got to have all that social proof there. You've got to have the followers on your social media accounts. You've got to have all your insurance in place. You've got to have a legit legal business from day one. Same thing applies for landscapers or pool builders or anything where you're out working on somebody's house. If you don't have these things in place and something bad happens, that's a bad situation. So I would do everything in your power from day one to do it correctly. Next thing, and this helped me start a couple of my businesses in the past, is can you sell the service before starting the business? First landscape business that I ever started, I mean, this was years ago. I started doing some advertising. I had all my stuff in place, all my licenses in place. I was completely legal, but I needed employees and I couldn't hire employees if I didn't have work. So what I did was I went out and I advertised and I found business and I sold the business, or I sold the services, and I let them know, okay, you're about a month out on the schedule. So what I did was I was roughly about 3 months worth of work, and I just let everyone know where they were at in order. And that gave me that first month to collect deposits for the projects, at least for the first couple projects. So I had the funding there for their projects in place to cover the materials, to cover equipment rentals, things like that. It also gave me that first month to hire a couple employees so we could do the work. So is it something that you can sell before you even start work, before you quit your job, before you do all this other stuff? Like that's a valid consideration. That will take you back to, is there a need for it? Because if you quit your business or quit your job to start a business, but you don't know if you can sell services or not, you don't know if there's a need for it because you haven't tested the market, right? It kind of comes full circle. So just when you're deciding whether or not to start a business, these are the steps that you really need to go through. Of course, I could expand on this all day, but if you can at least go through each individual one of these steps and you can answer them honestly, you can do market research, you can talk to people, you can find out if this is something that's legitimate, a legitimate need in your area. it's going to make the process a whole lot easier. The last thing you want to do is quit your job and make a big investment into your business and not have supplemental income, not have the licenses in place, and there's not a need for it, and you can't sell the service. So just kind of go through this checklist, and I'll go ahead and put this checklist up on the screen at different points so you can see this as well. But this will I think kind of help make that decision a lot easier for you.